The Wisdom Teachings of Sai Baba of Shirdi. Sai Baba is a revered spiritual master who lived in India in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He was a wisdom teacher who drew from both the Islamic and Hindu traditions, with followers of each claiming him as their own. His religious universalism, the conviction there are many paths to the one truth, was an extraordinary gift to his community and country, with its history of violent strife between Hindus and Muslims. His followers believed he could miraculously heal the sick and grant wishes of all kinds. Many who were childless came to him for his blessing to become parents. Others came hoping Sai Baba would help their businesses succeed. He often observed that few persons came to him out of true spiritual yearning, wanting the riches of inner wealth he was so eager to share. But instead of condemning them for their worldliness, Sai Baba always responded lovingly and blessed them in response to their requests. Stories of healings and other miraculous events are widespread among his followers. He's quoted as saying, "I give them what they want, so they will want what I have to give them." During his life, his fame spread and continued to grow after his passing. Today, his followers number in the millions. Organizations of his devotees can be found not only in India, but in the UK, Malaysia, Germany, France, and the US, as well as in other countries. If you're traveling in India, you'll see pictures of Sai Baba in taxis, restaurants, and stores throughout the continent. Every year, many people visit his shrine in Shirdi, located in Maharashtra state. Biographer Antonio Rigopoulos wrote, "A young ascetic identified by villagers as a Muslim reached the hamlet of Shirdi one day sometime in the latter half of the 19th century and lived in the village in a run-down mosque until his death." Sai Baba spoke very little. Visitors gained inner peace and answers to their questions simply by sitting silently in his presence. When he did speak, he instructed his devotees using stories and enigmatic parables. Shirdi Sai Baba discouraged questions about his origins. To the question, "Baba, who are you? From where did you come?" he replied, "I am the attributeless Absolute. I have no name, no residence." He wore a white robe and wrapped a cloth around his head, a style of dress that was typical of Muslim ascetics. He did reveal that as a young child, he was sent by his family to live with a guru named Venkusha. He spoke about this time. "For 12 years I waited on my guru, who is peerless and loving. How can I describe his love for me? When he was in trance-like meditation, I sat and gazed at him. We were both filled with bliss. I cared not to turn my eye upon anything else. Night and day I poured upon his face with an ardor of love that banished hunger and thirst. The Guru's absence even for a second made me restless. I meditated on nothing but the Guru and had no goal or object other than the Guru. My mind was unceasingly fixed upon him. Apparently inactive, he never neglected me, but always protected me by his glance. By his grace, I attained my present state." Talking about this state, Sai Baba described the profound change that had come over him, creating a state of oneness with creation that obliterated his individual ego. Describing this transcendent state, he said, "I am formless and everywhere. I am in everything and beyond. I fill all space. All that you see, taken together, is myself. I do not shake or move. All that is seen is my form: ant, fly, prince, pauper. I'm in the water, in dry places, in woods, amidst crowds, and in the solitary wilderness. I am the fire and in the ether. I am not limited to any place." After his guru's death, Sai Baba, then in his mid-teens, traveled from place to place for a time before arriving in the little town of Shirdi in 1854. A woman in the village described the young man. "This young lad, fair, smart, and very handsome, was first seen under the neem tree, seated in an asana, which is a yogic posture. He was approximately 16 years of age. Other than one short period of time when he was 19 or 20, Sai Baba lived in Shirdi the rest of his life. One of the accounts of his life relates the amazement of the villagers at his behavior upon his arrival in the village. The people of the village were amazed to see that the teen appeared indifferent to both heat or cold. In the beginning, he didn't associate with anyone. He always sat outdoors near the neem tree. He had few possessions. One was a brick from his guru that he would rest his head upon when he slept. Some people called him Pagal, the crazy one, due to his eccentric behavior. Shirdi at that time was a farming community with a population of about 1,000. The majority of the population was Hindu, with Muslims making up about 10%. Early on in his time there, Sai Baba attempted to enter a nearby Hindu temple, but was denied entry because people took him for a Muslim fakir or mendicant. And no Muslim was allowed to set foot inside the temple because they were considered unclean. Later he would take up residence in a dilapidated mosque and lived there for many years. The wife of the village leader met Sai Baba and was so taken with him that she vowed she would not eat her meals until she'd first offered food to him. At mealtimes she would wander around until she located him, often finding him in deep states of meditation. She would place the food in front of him and quietly leave. She continued doing this for many years. But other townspeople considered him bizarre, even mad. He would often walk around the town, muttering to himself, seemingly talking to people who weren't there. He was overheard repeating mantras or Islamic prayers deep into the night. In fact, he did not seem to sleep at all. After begging for food when he became hungry, Sai Baba would share this food with dogs, birds, and even insects. He would leave his bowl of food outside so that passers-by could take some. As time went by, more and more people recognized that he was an enlightened being, meaning he'd merged his individual self or ego into universal consciousness. In India, this is called the Atman. He would sing, "May Malahum," or "I am God," in a state of ecstasy. He would tie bells to his ankles and dance in a state of rapturous joy. He soon gained a reputation as a healer. He would get hold of medicinal herbs and other common remedies from the local shops so that he could treat the sick who came to him with their physical complaints. Visitors came to believe they were healed of their ailments or received blessings such as children or jobs simply by being in his presence or receiving the ashes from his fire, which he would often hand out as prasad or blessing. He enjoyed gardening and gave flowers he had grown to the local temples. His clothing was simple. He would make it out of cast-off cloth he had found. He did this in solidarity with the poor. He said, "Poverty is better than kingship, far better than lordship. God is always the befriender of the poor." He walked around barefoot without sandals, like rural Muslims and low-caste Hindus. Inside the mosque, he built a wood fire that he would always keep burning. He sat for hours in front of the fire in meditation. He gave away ashes to visiting devotees who believed they had healing power. At night, he surrounded himself with small oil lamps, which he placed all around the room. He rested all night in a hammock that was strung high off the ground. Some came yearning for knowledge, wanting a glimpse of his state. To these people, Sai Baba gave clear instructions. He often said, "Who are we? Night and day think on this. Who are we? What are we?" In answer to a devotee who asked, "Who am I?" he answered, "I am you. You are I. There is no difference between you and me." On another occasion he said, "People make a distinction between themselves and others. This is wrong. I am in you and you in me." He pointed to the large wall that separated the mosque from the next building. He said, "This wall separates you from me. Pull down this wall, and then we will see each other clearly, face to face." Self-realized persons do not recognize individual differences. If you want to serve me, remove this sense of difference. As you continue to think in this way, you will realize the truth. Search the scriptures and see if the Atman, the self, is one or many. Sai Baba was known for his compassion for the sick. He loved animals and all living creatures. He taught the lesson of oneness of the self most powerfully through his example, not just through his verbal teachings. One of his disciples asked, "I have the conviction so strongly that it is in the marrow of my bones that life is one, and that other beings and myself are one. The Atman, the self, is that one, and it's fully here at this moment. I'm constantly engaged in sadhana or spiritual practice. The question remains, why do I not actually experience that unity as none other than myself?" Sai Baba answered, "Your conviction of unity is an idea, a thought. It's not an experience. For instance, your wife has chest pain. Do you have chest pain? If not, where's the unity? The unity of life must be experienced. It's not enough to have an idea or thought without the actual experience." The devotee responded, "You talk about experience. How is one to get it?" Sai Baba replied, With steady spiritual practice, no special effort is needed in order to get the experience of oneness. It's just like you and me in this car. You as the driver only need to continue driving the car toward Anandapur, our destination. Likewise, with steady and committed spiritual practice, the experience of the One will sooner or later come about. On another occasion, he said, "The mind is turbulent. Effort must be made to make it steady. Practice recollection and meditation. Study spiritual works. Practice what they set forth. Atma Vidya, the science of the self, is the highest wisdom. The culmination of knowledge is the realization of the one Atman, the inner self of all, from which everything has arisen. He also said, "Since the Atman self pervades everything and is the only reality, there is no need for a guru. It is all within you. Try to listen within and follow the direction you get. We must look at ourselves, look within. That is the guide, the teacher." He taught that the goal is not some future state in some faraway destination. He said, "Liberation is not heaven, Vaikuntha, or Kailas. It is the invisible origin of the universe, pure consciousness, pure being. Becoming that is moksha, or liberation. That is immortality. That is the goal of human life. All other aims are worthless." About this reality, he said elsewhere, "It's the origin, the essence, the foundation that permeates the universe, sentient and insentient. At every moment it underlies your existence. There's no place without it. It has no form or name. It is the air in which there's no color or form to be seen, but whose existence is foundational. Vegetable, animal, human, and all other lives are contained within it. It's the origin of all appearances, perception, and knowledge. It is the one root of the many. It pervades everything. It can be described as Sat Chit Ananda, essential being, pure consciousness, and the highest happiness rolled into one. All of us are that. We are not distinct from it." He said, "I will tell you how to conduct yourself in this world of illusory differences. The wise should be cheerful and contented. They should not be chronically dissatisfied, raging against the circumstances in which they find themselves. Be humble. Plants bend when they have fruit. Toward enlightened beings, show respect and be humble. Be charitable and generous. Don't be miserly. You need to acquire some money to function in this life, but do not become entangled in it. Live cheerfully and be active, but don't forget God, the inner self. Remember this innermost reality. Have consideration for the poor and the wretched. Don't persecute or oppress them. Inquire within yourself always, who am I?" He always said, "Feed the hungry first, and then yourself." He was full of compassion for the poor and the sick. The following is a conversation that he had with a woman devotee, Bimabai. Sai Baba said, Bimabai, take this leper home and attend to her. Bimabai, Baba, but she's a leper. Sai Baba, never mind, what of that? She's my own sister. Take her home. Bimabai then took the leper and attended to her. He said, You cannot separate death and life. Consciousness pervades everything. No one is born, none dies. See with your inner eye. Then you realize that you're the highest reality. You're not different from it. Like a worn-out garment that's cast off, the body dies. When death arrives, do not grieve. The wise ones do not grieve over death. This individual life was lent to us. At death, air goes back to air, fire to fire. The body's made up of earth. Its return to the earth is nothing to bemoan. Sai Baba lived a long life. He was about 80 years old when he died on October 15th, 1918. For some time prior to that, his health had been failing. On October 3rd, Sai Baba told one follower, Child, I will continue and you will follow me. He gave him urdi, which is the ashes from his fire, and then said, Don't be afraid that I will leave you. Think always of me. Believe in me with heart and soul. On the Tuesday afternoon of October 18th, Sai Baba sent away most of his followers, telling them to have their meal. Several of his closest disciples remained with him. His mind was clear and lucid up until the time of death. He reclined onto the lap of one of his oldest disciples and was quite serene. Eventually his breathing stopped. One of his earliest biographers writes, The news of Baba's death spread like wildfire in the village of Shirdi, and all people, men, women, and children, ran to the mosque and began to mourn. Tears ran down their cheeks, and everyone was smitten with sorrow. Arguments raged between his Muslim and Hindu devotees regarding the manner and location of his burial and shrine. After several days, the dispute ended, and the funeral rites took place. Unlike many fake gurus who amass enormous wealth, Sai Baba was an authentic spiritual teacher. Although his devotees showered him with gifts and money throughout his life, he quickly gave it all away to those in need. At the time of his death, he only had 16 rupees to his name, worth only $1 or $2. The words of a great being carry an energy that continues long after their life on earth is over. Contemplating them attunes us to that energy and gives us a glimpse of that being's powerful state. The wisdom teachings Sai Baba left us are meant to be the bridge that we walk over to become established in the natural state that is the birthright of all sentient beings.